let's get into it. Hello. It has been so long since I have done a book video, so I wanted to do it today. Okay, so the current sort of video that I'm seeing a lot of my favorite booktubers do is their fall recommendations and their fall TBR. So I started to compile my fall TBR. Let me show you. This is half of her. This is half of her. This is the other half of her. So I've decided I'm just going to do a fall TBR video because clearly if I do my recommendations too, we're going to be sitting here all day. So let's get into it. I've broken this up into two different sections. Sort of more fantasy, spooky, not even really much horror, just I guess more darker books, and it's also reflective in the covers too. And then my other books are just more other books that I want to read for fall. I don't really know how to categorize them other than they just feel sort of cozy lit fic. I think I'm gonna start with the spooky fantasy stuff because those are the books that I think I want to read in October, and then the cozy lit fic comes in November. So I'm going to show you kind of like what order I would read them in. First up on my list, I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is the first book I'm talking about because this is going to be the next book that I read. Me and my best friend Lily are going to do a buddy read, and this is sort of, I've talked about this in TBR videos before, but it's sort of like a circus that only comes around at night. Le Cirque des Rêves. Very exciting. And so it's kind of about two young magicians who fall in love, but they also they're in a competition and it may involve a fight to the death. That's literally all I needed to hear. So this is the first book on my fall TBR. I'm really excited about it. Next, we have Rouge by Mona Awad. I really liked Bunny. I didn't understand it completely, so didn't really grasp all of it, but I was excited and hungry for more. So I was waiting for this book to come out in paperback, which is why I haven't read it yet. Described as a Grimm Brothers fairy tale for the modern age. Good enough for me. This is really the only horror book that I think I have on my list. And so it's about a girl named Belle who's obsessed with beauty, just like her mother. Alright, so we're gonna get a little mother-daughter moment in this one. Her mother passes away, and when she goes to where her mom lived, I guess in SoCal, perfect, she discovers this beauty spa that her mom was obsessed with and kind of discovers this sort of like an obsession with the reflection. Well, it discovers a frightening secret is what it is described as by the back of this book. It's supposed to examine the cult-like nature of the beauty industry, our relationship to mortality, all these things. Totally down for it, really excited about this. Next, Jade City. Okay, I think I've also talked about this in a TBR before. I've probably owned this book for at least a year now, but I'm hell-bent on getting to this trilogy because I've just been in such a fantasy mood, and what I love more than fantasy is heist fantasy. All I kind of know about this is that Jade is a magical currency. We're getting a sort of urban fantasy mafia situation, and I guess it's following 4 different siblings of this powerful family that's controlling the Jade. I'm just really excited about it. I don't really know what more there is to say about it. I feel like a lot of people talk about this, and I'm really excited to talk about it in a wrap-up as opposed to a TBR. So she is on my list. I'm really looking forward to this one. Okay, next. This is really exciting. So I have recently gotten into the Brandon Sanderson world. I read Tress of the Emerald Sea. It's just a one-off situation into the Cosmere, and I loved it. I rated it 4.5, but it could be a 5-star. I have to think about it a little bit more and really see how I feel, but I honestly loved it so much. It was incredible. It was literally incredible. So that kind of spurred my interest. I was like, I want to get into the Cosmere from day one, which is like 30 books or something absolutely ridiculous, but we're going to start. So this is Elantris, I'm unsure about that. I got the big floppy version as opposed to the little tiny paperback because I like the tiny paperbacks, but look at that, like, that just has a good energy, good weight to it. I have no idea what this consists of, besides that it's the first book in the Cosmere, I believe. My sister read this book last year, and she really liked it. So there's this magical utopian city where everything is amazing. The people, the inhabitants are sort of equated with gods, beautiful, all that stuff. And there's this thing called the transformation, which can take any mundane person from their town or wherever, and it usually strikes at night, brings them to Elantris, and their life is made anew. And the last line on the back says, Elantris, where he could live in bliss, rule in wisdom, and be worshipped for eternity. Eternity ended 10 years ago. Suspicious. The next book that I have is another fantasy read, and it is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Super duper excited about this because I read Priory of the Orange Tree a few years ago, loved it, ride or die, hardcore fan. I also read the prequel that I'm forgetting the name of right now. That was I think like a 4 or 4.5 for me. I love hardcore dense fantasy. That's one of my favorite genres. And I hadn't picked up this before because honestly, I didn't like the cover. And then they remade the covers and then I was like, wait, I want to read that. Yeah, capitalism loves me as a consumer. This is about a girl named Paige and she's a dream walker, which means that she kind of is sort of clairvoyant, I guess. And she's committing treason because it's illegal to be a dream walker in this land. And then she gets arrested for murder. So I think she's kind of in league with criminals. Maybe there's a heist situation, not entirely sure. Again, don't know a ton about this one, but if it's a heist, if it's fantasy, if it's sort of a little ridiculous, count me in. Count me in. The last book on my fantasy section of this video. If you're looking at me and you're like, is that hardback? Have you had it since the day it came out and you still haven't read it yet? I don't want to talk about it. I'm getting to this year. This is like, I have to do this year. Grew up a Cassandra Clare girly. Shadowhunters are my ride or dies. I love them so much. It doesn't matter what it is. I will always pick up a Cassie Clare book, so I have to. I have to get to this because the next one probably comes out this year, I would assume. This is her first foray into sort of new adult, I think. Not young adult, but like the, you know, more adult and like 20-something-year-olds versus like teenage fiction. So it's following Kel, who is an orphan, and the sword catcher, friends with the prince, naturally, of course, we're adjacent to royalty here. And then there's also Lynn, possesses magical abilities, and she is a physician. I'm finding this out just as soon as you guys are. We have a failed assassination attempt that brings together Kel, the orphan, sword catcher, friend of the prince, and Lynn, the physician, of people that possess magical abilities. They kind of get drawn into this criminal underworld, and it's all about their, I guess, adventure into the corruption of the city. We shall see about this. Girl, if you don't mean to say that. Let's move on, shall we? The next section category of books that we have is all cozy, lit fic, emotional, whatever. The vibes that I am imagining for November and just fall. I want to start off with a couple of the shorter ones that I have. So first things first, Lily, if you're watching this, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. This is Lily's book. She's been asking me to read this for years. The Yellow Wallpaper. And other writings. I haven't because I'm stubborn, I'm procrastinating, I'm proving a point. What point exactly? I don't really know. Yellow Wallpaper. It's a short story about a woman who descends into madness in a house. It's only like 20 pages, so I don't know what's taking me so goddamn long to get to it, but we're going to get to it this fall. That's really all that I need to say about it. Then I have The Bell Jar, Sylvia Plath. This is another sort of woman going insane situation. Esther, her breakdown and insanity, and how it becomes real, rational, probable, just sort of pulling us into this world of feminine insanity, which I couldn't ask for anything more, honestly. I just have so many questions. This just feels like a really good book to read in the park one day. That's kind of how I'm envisioning it happening. We're gonna see what happens. These next two books I actually bought on my birthday, so it's been a while. Your girl is running a little bit behind. So I have The New Animals by Pip Adam, and this is set in the Auckland fashion scene in 2016. It's sort of chronicling the apprehensions, the dreams, the hopes, the pitfalls, whatever, of this sort of group of fashion industry workers, and they're all come from different generations, classes, divides, whatever. This just feels like it's gonna be a fun little story. It feels like it's gonna be a really good snapshot into a story, if that makes sense. I have no idea how in-depth this will go, but it just feels right. It just feels right, so I'm adding it to the TBR. The next book that I have on my little TBR is Glaciers by Alexis M. Smith. This super short. I feel like we can get through it in like a day probably. I just switched from like Australian to British there. Disregard. Anyways, this book takes course This book takes place over the course of a single day. I love a single day story. They're so fun. And it's about this girl named Isabel who repairs damaged books in her basement in Oregon, but she misses her life in Alaska. I think it's about growing up and the fleeting moments of everyday life, the mundane, exploring her love of the past and nostalgia, but then also building your life. This feels like it's going to be really potent. It feels like it's really short, but I feel like it's going to be profound and weigh heavily and be something I think about, or at least that's what I want it to become. So I'm very excited about this, and this just feels like a cute little quick story. Oh my god. Whew. Okay, we're making progress, guys. Almost done. Next, I have the Overstory by Richard Powers. This is actually Hannah's book. I got it through people, and it's my friend Hannah's book. I've tried to read a story by Richard Powers before. It's called not the Bug Variations. Is it the Bug Variations? The writing was really interesting, but super fucking dense, and so I'm a little nervous for this because I've heard it's supposed to be really good, but having tried to read one of his books before, I'm just a little nervous about how it's gonna go over. But it's won the Pulitzer Prize, so I'm hoping and I'm hopeful. I guess it's a bunch of interlocking short stories and fables with the general sort of... I actually don't even know how to describe this or explain what I think it's gonna be about because I don't entirely know. It just says it's a sweeping, impassioned work of activism and resistance. From the roots to the crown and back to the seeds, the Overstory unfolds in concentric rings of interlocking fables that range from antebellum New York to the late 20th century timber wars of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. There's a world alongside ours, vast, slow, interconnected, resourceful, magnificently inventive, and almost invisible to us. This is the story of a handful of people who learn how to see that world and who are drawn up into its unfolding catastrophe. This feels like I should read it under the trees in Central Park. This is what this book feels like to me, so that's why it's on my full TBR. Okay. I know what you guys are gonna say. You'll be crying on the subway. Okay. Everyone says that this book makes them cry and it's so sad and yada yada yada. I want to know if I'm going to be one of the people that cry. I want to know if I'm going to join the majority. Join the 95% probably. It's a story that follows 4 college classmates and as they move through New York in search of fame and fortune. That's kind of apropos. They're sort of all held together by Jude, who is, I suppose, one of their friends as well. It's a hymn to brotherly bonds and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century. This stunning novel is about the families we are born into and those that we make for ourselves. I feel like this is going to be kind of giving the secret to Why am I forgetting the name of every book I've ever read today? Is it called The Secret Society? What? That Donna Tartt book. You guys know what I'm talking about. I feel like it's going to be that, but perhaps without, you know, involved. Anyways, I think my brother read it and said it was boring, but I don't trust him. So this is almost an 800-page book, and it feels like it's going to be hefty. A little apprehensive, but I'm also feeling like I just imagine sitting outside, reading it under the trees, the leaves are changing colors, we're talking about friendship, familiarity, we're talking about growing up together. New York, hello, just moved here, so that's why I'm reading this one. And I'm excited. I am excited about it. The last book, but it's actually 3, Elena Ferrante, My Brilliant Friend. This is probably one of the books that I am the most excited to read this fall. Damn, after holding up A Little Life, this book feels short as hell. How many pages is this? Yeah, it's like a little over 300. And I have the next 2 books here that I got at a used bookstore. So I actually have the next 2 as well. This was named one of the most influential or best books of the 20th century? Was that it? It was really important, whatever it was. It was named one of the best books on one of the best lists of the best things. It's about female friendship over the course of their lives. I think it goes through all 4 books. This one specifically, yeah, it's the story of Elena and Lila, and it begins in the 1950s in their neighborhood and outskirts of Naples, and it's just the story of their friendship, and I believe that, yeah, it goes through all of the rest of the novels. I'm so incredibly excited to read these. I don't know why I'm so sure that I'm going to love them. Maybe it's the fact that they won a bunch of awards, but something, I love to read about female friendship. I love to explore female friendship. I love a story about female friendship, so I'm really excited about all of these books, and I'm really feeling like they're going to get read this year. So that's the tea on that, y'all. Alright, that is gonna be it for my fall TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if there's any book recs that you have for fall or any books that are in your TBR, because y'all know I'm always trying to add, like, the physical TBR. She's not done. She's never done. So let me know what you guys think, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!